Greetings and salutations, race fans, motorsport lovers, and others. What a great time it is to be alive. There's the sound of racing cars throbbing. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk about the Backdraft Production Series. With the winner of Class E and Index, Bryan Morgan. We're going to talk to Brian Martin on the technical side of it and share some of the issues around rules and about parity and some of the learnings from the weekend. And then we start looking forward to this weekend, which is the first round of the new Super GTC class. And we've got Mike Rowe, head of VWSA Motorsport, who's joining us, as will Gary Formato. So, on with the show. And I'm joined by Andrew Horndog, who, as usual, is your proxy and your voice into the show. If you have any comments, any queries, any questions, stick them in the bottom there. Andrew, are you well?
Very healthy, thank you, Colin. Missing being in the studio with you, but hopefully not too long now. But it's great to be back on a Wednesday evening with everybody, bringing people up to date on what's going on.
The time will come, Andrew, when you are with us. And Andrew, when you've got some questions and comments and stuff from, shall we call it, the chat room, all three of them, if you'll just jump in there and let us know. Right, on with the action. First things first, and I'm under strict conditions from our executive producer, who's sitting with a whip pointed at me if I do not behave. Last weekend was the first round of the South African Endurance Series, and for backdraft lovers, Cobra lovers, the sounds of V8s was the first round of the Backdraft Production Series, a series for standard production cars of the backdraft variety, all built to exactly the same specifications, and we had 10 cars running. It was absolutely magnificent, and we've got the results. So we're going to go to the overall results first. And some of the interesting things in there, you'll see that these are the drivers who were in the cars at the end, with Bryan Morgan and Donovan Taylor winning the Class E, Reggie Roots second, and Steven Kriel third. Now, the thing with this, and let's just go to the index of performance results as well, and you'll see, again, we're focusing on Class E. So Bryan Morgan is the winner of index of performance overall. Why is this so strange? Well, he ended up the race in the middle of, I was going to say a Briflace, but that might be too soon. And we are joined by Bryan Morgan. Bryan, first of all, congratulations, and he will appear very shortly. Bryan, congratulations to you and Donovan, firstly on a fantastic win, and both in the class and on index of performance. And how does it feel to be the winner of the inaugural Backdraft Production Series race?
Colin, it's just fantastic, man. I'd never really done more than a half an hour endurance race before in my life. And I think Donovan and I put a nice strategy together where we didn't rip the car, we looked after it nicely, and we just put a consistent team effort together and a very good pit stop strategy as well. And it actually turned out very nicely, apart from the accident at the end. But fantastic feeling apart from the burns. It was a great feeling to win that one.
It would not be fair if we didn't very briefly touch on your crash. You were in the lead. Reggie Roots was closing you down. He was hunting you down. And sitting in the pits from my side, it was actually very interesting watching this high-speed chess match play out. We kind of knew that you were battling with a very long brake pedal. And did you push a little bit too hard in the end?
Yeah, you could say that. I was behind a Mini going into that turn 5 where the crash happened, and I also knew I was under a bit of pressure, so I wanted to get past him. I knew I was quicker. Even though I broke to get past the guy, I definitely still broke quite early because I didn't know that the brake pedal was going to the floor. Just
not a nice feeling that, eh?
Oh my word, no, it's awful. But you know, you're racing. You got to try try things sometimes. I didn't believe that it would go straight to the floor like it did, but unfortunately those things happen, and yeah, it ended up in the fence, and it was just unfortunate.
And the worst, most racing drivers don't like fire, and it's one of our worst dreams. Just the thing goes bang, there's lots of fire. What's going through your brain then?
Well, what happened was, so when the brakes didn't work as expected, I tried to gear down to fourth and then to third on the runoff area, which was tar, so I could have more traction. And when I went to third, the back wheels locked and spun me backwards. And what happened was I went into a fence, and unfortunately there weren't any tires in front of the fence. So a pole penetrated the petrol tank, and then I didn't know that it had happened at the time. So I just sat in the car as you do after you have a bit of an impact. And yeah, I was expecting to just climb out normally, and then all of a sudden it was like a pop, like a bang, and then I just saw flames rush over, like on my face, on my body. Just all I saw was yellow and red, and all I did was just unclip this harness and pulled myself out, fell out of the car, rolled around to get the fire off. It was just a matter of seconds.
To interrupt you there, that was a very interesting thing, and part of wanting to talk about this is to throw forward some learnings to other drivers who may or may not get caught in a situation like this. The clarity of thought. Get out of the car quickly. Then you realized that you were actually burning because the petrol had doused you as well, and your overalls were covered in fuel. And then it was, what is it? Stop, drop, and roll?
Yeah, stop, drop, and roll. I actually didn't really know that I was on fire. I knew the car was, but as soon as I got out of the car, I looked down and I saw my legs and everything was obviously full of petrol. And first thing I thought it was stop, drop, and roll. And to be honest with you, the fire retardant suit and my gloves and boots and all the stuff that I was wearing, the fire went off very quickly. I was out of the car in 12 seconds. I think I was out of fire in about 16 seconds. So luckily I was wearing the right kit. And I think, that's a testament to what drivers need to do. You need to buy the right stuff, fireproof stuff, if you're going to race on the main circuit.
So now, the craziest thing ever, and I don't think ever in South Africa we've had the winning car, because the race was then red flagged, as it should have been, and decided, because there was about 30 odd minutes left to go, that they would call the race as end of race. So you count back to the positions at the previous lap. So the winner of the class and index, and excuse me for the amusement or the smile on my face, but it's more smile of joy. The winner is parked in the barrier, and the driver's on his way to the in-care care center. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, it is quite amazing. I don't know if that's ever happened before. So maybe that's one for the record books as well.
But on Monday morning, when the entries opened for the PE round, which is not this weekend, but next weekend, 15 odd August, you were the first guy to enter.
Look, you got to get back on the horse, I've had 3 procedures because of the injury so far. I've got one more on Saturday morning, and I want to enter. I want to be in there. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to make it. I might be a bit sore, but you know what? We race. We understand the dangers of motorsport, and I just want to be in there and just give it a good go next weekend.
That's absolutely awesome. We've also got Bryan Martin online as well, and if we can, Fritz, we'll just call him up. Bryan, I see that you're working hard with the Red Rooster. Congratulations on the massive effort that you and the Backdraft team put together to get the 10 cars to the grid. What are you thinking at the moment, looking back at the race?
I'm thinking about PE, Colin. At the moment, we're thinking of building Bryan, getting his car ready for him so that he can race in PE.
Thanks, Bryan.
And to be honest, we're just flat out building cars,
Awesome. And I've seen some pictures of the car, and we don't really have one. Picture number 7. Fritz, this was on Monday earlier this week, was it, when you had the car back out? If we can we'll pick number 7, it'll come up eventually. Oh, there you go. That's your car, Bryan Morgan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know
but
it's a little bit incomplete at the moment, but hopefully it'll be there in a week.
no, it's a lot further now.
Okay.
Brian's car, I would say, is 90% done. The engine and gearbox in, diff is in, all suspension is in. We're basically doing all the small kill switches and fuel switches and all that stuff now. But his car will be ready on Monday morning, and it's been arranged. It's going to be collected Monday morning. It will be stickered in the same stripe that he had. So when he gets his car, it'll be exactly like the one he had just before turn 5.
Well, thank you, Brian. I really appreciate that, man. That's awesome.
Just Brian Morgan, if you can just put your hands up just to show people the condition that you're in. This is a guy, viewers, who's going to race in, 9 days' time.
Yeah,
take my hat off to you. You also went to visit our friends at Sparco today to check out try-on suits.
Yeah, so Kobus Roos, he's a great guy there at MS Technic and Sparco South Africa. And they're doing a great deal for us. I think they're doing a great deal for Backdraft Motorsport as well. And yeah, so he's going to help us out with a nice deal with some new boots. Obviously, I need full new kit, new boots, balaclava, undershirt, gloves, everything. So looking forward to getting that kit and showing it off next weekend.
I think picture number 6 has we've got already shows your brand new crash helmet.
Yeah, and that's another guy, Mr. Arai, Sheldon van Heerden from Arai, South Africa, and Bikewise. He's actually a mate of mine as well. He felt bleak for me because that was the first race in that helmet. So he was a bit sad for me. And within 4 or 5 days, my new lid was there, and yeah, man, I'm very, very chuffed with their service. Anyone wants to get hold of him, he's probably the best guy to speak to about Arai in South Africa.
Awesome. Brian Martin, one of the major points that Backdraft have put together is a package for damage. I don't know what you want to call it. Is it a type of an insurance where each racer pays, and I'm going to mention the figures, pays a fee of about $2,000 a race to cover insurance. And in this case, the car is FUBAR, and there's a $15,000 excess on it, and boom, replacement car arrives. That is got to be one of the most impressive backings by a manufacturer in any series worldwide.
Yeah, Colin, we're not allowed to call it an insurance fund because I don't know why.
It's your repair policy.
It's a repair policy, correct. Thanks, Carl. So you pay $2,000 a race, and it covers everything on the car. It covers engine, gearbox, diff, even a major write-off like Brian's car. The maximum excess is $15,000, and then you get a brand new car. If you break an engine, I think it's also 10 or 12 grand is the excess. You get a complete new engine.
But now,
gearbox and diff, they all have their prices, but your maximum is 15. Yeah.
It's I've got to say that's a tremendous commitment by Backdraft, and I know I'm involved in the series helping you with some team liaison, but it's one of those things, and tonight's show is probably about 2 manufacturers in South Africa who've put their balls on the line and have made mega commitments to motorsport. One of them, Backdraft, and then when we get to the second part of our show tonight, we're talking about the Volkswagen SupaCup Series. So, number one, I think that's fantastic. Brian, I wanted to ask you, one of the questions that was asked of me during the week was the technical equivalence of the cars. How do we make sure that the cars are all the same? And more importantly, it's all about, that we just love power. And how do we make sure that all the cars are equal in power?
Okay, Carl, what we did, with the engines, we refreshed them, of course, and then we hot tested every engine before we fitted them to the cars. Not knowing exactly what the horsepower would be, but we had a good idea from previous experience. So at SWAT Corps, I ran all 9 cars on the dyno, and they're all made within 10 horsepower of each other.
Okay, cool. So that puts to bed any bullshit. I mean, any talking about he's got more power than me and all that stuff. So we know that the power's the same, and that all the motors are sealed. Am I right?
They're all sealed. You can't open them. The dictators are sealed. You can't fiddle with the maps. And you know what? We will continue to monitor it, and we'll probably run 1 or 2 cars at every circuit just to double check. And
at
if
random.
anybody looks like he's, at random. And if anybody looks like he's going too fast, we'll just put him on the dyno and we'll check his horsepower. And we're not going to take cheating lightly. If anybody does cheat, they'll probably get 1 warning, and then their car will get taken away. It's that simple.
I think it's
a list of people who want cars. So cheating won't be tolerated. So the people must know that from the start. If they're going to come with an extra 30, 40 horsepower, they're going to lose their drive. So that's the way it is.
Horndog, you've got some questions and comments, and there's chatter going on in the chat room.
There is a little bit. I've got Garth Jacobs saying he's very glad that Bryan is okay. And I suppose this is a contentious issue with the brake failure. His comment is hopefully his new car has better brakes. And I know this has been a hotly contested topic, and I think it's probably pertinent to bring up sort of specs on those cars and
I wish I could hear him.
You know what?
Okay, Bryan. Andrew, Bryan can't hear you, so I will translate. Bryan, the question goes around from one of the readers who said that he's very happy that Bryan Morgan is okay. And to quote the comment is, he hopes the new car's got better brakes. Brakes these are production cars, and they came out with production brakes. You've made some adjustments and decisions regarding the brakes. Just tell us what they are and why, and going forward what the situation's going to be.
Okay, Carl, it was the first race, so nobody was sure about brakes. And to be honest, we had 9 cars starting that race and 7 finished.
And 6 of those cars were in the top 10.
Yeah, and the brakes couldn't have been that bad, other than people not setting them up properly. I think Bryan had a bit of an imbalance in his brakes, and I think that was why he had such a long pedal. But we have opened up brakes now, so brake pads are free. You can use any performance pad that you like. You can choose Padgett or performance friction, endless, whatever you prefer. Brake pads will be free. Brake pipes are free.
So you can put the braided hoses on, and of course, and guys should be using proper racing brake fluid anyway.
Yeah, you've got to use .5 racing fluid, and then as we go down the line, we'll make improvements as we go. We are looking at pedal boxes for later on in the year, but at this stage, we think the brakes with performance pads and the right fluid and braided pipes, I think the brakes will be fine.
Bryan, from your point of view, you just so keen to get back in these things, and the crash you had, that hasn't deterred you at all, has it?
Oh no, not at all. Like I said, I've been involved in racing for 25 years, and we accept the risks. Sometimes these things happen. Sometimes the brakes, you have problems with the brakes. Sometimes you have problems with the throttle. Sometimes, shit happens. Excuse my French, but yeah, I'm just ready to get back in there and do the best that I can do.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. We really are looking forward to PE. Right, time moves on. I want to thank you, Bryan Morgan, for taking time out, and wish you all the very best in getting your hands healed. There's Reggie Roots just going out of the pits there. Get well.
Thank you.
Get your hands fixed and lacquer. And we really look forward to seeing you in PE. Bryan Martin, now that you've had your spaghetti, we see that you're in your workshop and working hard on the Red Rooster. You've got, it was a gear issue that you had clutch issue that you had at Swartkorps?
No, it wasn't. It was brakes.
Okay, but you've got them sorted out now.
It wasn't really brakes. It was driver brain fade. because
who-
I adjusted too much brakes to the back, and I overheated the front, and ended up with no pedal.
So there's a reason why shit does happen around me.
Of course.
Brian,
Of
we know that
course.
you have a bit of brain fade every now and then. So your brain fade led to the brake fade.
Correct. It was my fault. But you know what? Trevor's also taking half the blame, so it's fine.
That's not what Trevor told me. But I see Trevor working in the background. Guys, thank you very much for joining us.
One quick question.
Yes, Andrew.
One quick question. Brian Morgan, you say you've never done a sort of a race longer than half an hour. What is your biggest takeaway from your first long race and managing a car over that time? Because I know when I moved up into endurance series, it was a big eye opener in terms of managing a car over 4 hours compared to sort of 12 laps. And I'd just be curious to hear what you have to say.
So I was actually a little bit nervous going into the race because, I mean, I've been a sprint racing driver my whole career. And on the Friday, I was speaking to Brian Martin about it. And I was a little bit worried about the other guys doing such quick lap times. And he said to me, just don't stress about doing those hectically fast lap times. The cars won't last. What you got to do is look after the car, get a consistent thing going. And I think that's why we won the performance index. Just get consistent, get in the groove, look after the car. And to be honest with you, after half an hour, 40 minutes in there, you actually get comfortable. You get in a groove. You see what's going on around you. You let the faster cars go past, and you just get comfortable and go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you did a bloody good job.
The fascinating change of thinking.
Yeah, no, it is crazy, but it's fantastic. I really actually enjoyed it a lot more than I've enjoyed some sprint racing in the last few seasons.
And that is the beauty of the South African Endurance Series. We absolutely love it. Best value for money racing that you can get. So Brian's going to go and get healthy. The other Brian is going to take some workload from Trevor in the background. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Awesome stuff. We'll see you in PE. And that moves us very swiftly from the backdraft part of the endurance racing, Andrew Horn, into the Volkswagen Super Polos, who also ran two cars in their endurance, did incredibly well. The cars ran like clockwork. And we're joined by Mike Rowe, who is the head of Volkswagen South Africa Motorsport. Mike, thank you very much for holding on the line, and congratulations on the first race that your Super Polos competed in. Well done.
Thanks very much. I love endurance event. I think when we saw it was the first event on the calendar after lockdown, and we thought, let's dive in there. All of our drivers couldn't contain themselves anymore. They were dying to get off the laters. So it looked like a good opportunity for us to test the cars as well, because we'd finished them just before lockdown, so we hadn't had an opportunity to test. So what better way than to chuck them in a long race? So that's really the background as to how we ended up running in the endurance. Yeah.
But now the endurance bug is bit, apparently, because I'm reliably told that there's one of the cars is going to be entered in the round in PE not this weekend, next weekend, and somebody is apparently building a bigger fuel tank for them as well, so that you can run slightly longer stints than you were able to run this last weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what us at Swartkorps is obviously where the car is a standard fuel tank, so it only carries about 55 litres. So we had to stop literally every hour for fuel. And that's really what cost us a very good overall result, because we had just stopped for our last stop when Bryan didn't happen. So we really needed the remaining time to get missions back. But anyway, it's safety first, and that Brian's okay, and that he's on the mend. So, but yeah, I think overall we really can't complain. The cars at the last stop we were running third and fourth overall, and behind very fast sports cars, so we really can't complain. But yeah, I think for endurance events we need to carry a little bit more fuel, so we're looking at some options there, something that can bolt in and out, so that the guys can use the car sprint and endurance events. I think that's really what the car was intended for anyway. So, this is actually our own project that we showcased at the Festival of Motoring last year, and then everyone loved it. So we ended up selling 11 cars. So, so the net result is we've got a series going.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. Now we've got some photographs, and one of the ties in very nicely with the overall marketing campaign at the moment of Volkswagen, which is the buy local, drive local, buy local. You saying drive local, race local, and if you can have a look at pic number 8, Fritzy, and the localness on this car is, I think it's absolutely brilliant. You've got a local gearbox, local race gearbox, race brakes local. The chassis is built in by now would be your production line in PE, local bodywork. It's a massive investment in the local racing industry.
Yeah, I think what's important for South Africa is that we invest in our local suppliers and the people that are working behind the scenes to make motorsport successful in South Africa. So we started with this project. We looked at all options to make it, or to purchase and source inside South Africa as we can, because the exchange rate you pay in pound, euro, or dollar just makes it very expensive. So yeah, we've had fantastic support from Gear and Axle in KZN with the development of the gearbox. We've the transmission in Jonathan Makhotzi's car is actually the original gearbox. It whole running at Scribanti in January. And then sort of initial testing. It's done all the sort of preliminary testing before lockdown. It's done for our race. So we've calculated in terms of mileage. That gearbox is probably done close to a season of sprint racing, so and without any issues. So we're really happy with the results.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Gary Formato, you struggled through the traffic. Welcome and thanks a lot for joining us. We just started talking GTC with Mike and the fantastic development of the Super Polo class.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was quite exciting when we spoke about it last year. It was just an idea. I know Mark and them had the car. They sort of, I think, earmarked for the hill climb or something like that, and it just actually made too much sense. And it was a relatively short discussion between everybody, and here we are today. So I think pretty exciting times, and I've been listening to what you guys have been talking about, and GTC has always been was aimed at being a class for a real racing cars, not production cars, which is what we came for before. And I think certainly now for this class to be here, I mean, to me, it's a real little tour, and the fit is just perfect. So we're obviously excited to have it here, and of course, just excited to have the amount of involvement that we have from VW in GTC across both classes. So there's lots of exciting things happening in both classes in GTC this year with them. And unfortunately, this weekend we won't have the GTI there, Mike, but I think it's made a real stir in the world, really. And I've actually got an email today from Germany and a couple of other people asking me about that car. So it's really exciting time. So it's not all bad news out there at the moment. We're looking forward to just being at the track this weekend with everybody.
Fantastic stuff happening in
The host.
We've lost Colin. That's not good.
You'll have to take over.
All right, guys, if you can hear me, that's good. Mike, I just want to touch on you guys participating in the endurance series. I mean, to have a manufacturer participating in that series is a big feather in Roger's cap for the series he's put together. Is that something you guys are going to continue to do? Sort of, as you say, the endurance bug is bit. Is that something you're going to continue doing? And are you looking at any other programs for this car?
Look, I think for the moment, we need to keep our drivers busy. Daniel and Keegan are pretty much they don't really have anything to do at the moment. So the idea was to get them out on track, and they've been spending their lives on simulators for the last 5 months, doing endurance type events. So they're loving it as well. So But yeah, I don't think it's some. I mean, certainly GTC is our program, and but maybe we need to introduce some longer races in that format in that view.
I'm back. I got power. I ran out of
Fantastic.
battery power. Mark, what you say about the longer races? Gary, both these cars, the GTC ones and the Super Cup cars, are designed around or with endurance in mind. I mean, an hour race would be absolutely fantastic. Bring a bit of strategy into it, a pit stop maybe.
Yeah, look, that was always the intention. When we started off with GDC, we'd aimed at having longer races. But there's certain logistics in South Africa that we need to have in place to have pit stop races and what have you. Sort of look at other models, other series around the world that have pit stops. It's not a small exercise, but it's definitely something that we'd like to have a look at. And I think to change formats up and offers other opportunities, perhaps drivers to be sharing cars, etc., etc. So I think from the endurance series point of view, it's just we had to chat to Roger, and he was kind enough to insert our rules there just to place some sort of regulation into it and just some guidelines for the GDC guys that are going to compete there as well. And also got to come onto the market. For example, you've got your Unfreeze car from the last couple of years that's out there. If that car, for example, is not sold, it doesn't want to be raced in GDC with the new chassis and what have you that the guys have now this year. There is a home for that car as well. And if you look at the price you're going to pay for this sort of second-hand car right now, it's a high-performance car for the kind of money that you're spending. So it's good that we've got that class, we've got that option certainly available to us, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens weeks down in PE. With this endurance, how the guys enjoy it as well.
Mark, just the point that Gary raised about cost. These cars that the Super Polos that you're making, you've got a level of subsidy, a big level of subsidy in them. Talk us through, if somebody wants to buy one, you said you've sold 11 of them. Somebody wants one, what does it cost? And from a support point of view, what are VW doing? You've got a support truck and a support package at the tracks?
Yeah, so look, the first batch of cars was sold at they were 700,000. And if I think for bang for buck, it's with the kind of lap times it does, it's a really good value. We will carry, as we do with Polo Cup, we do carry some spares to the track that the competitors don't have to carry huge spares packages around. So I think the support to the competitors will be pretty similar to what we offer in Polo Cup.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. And the chances of you building more, when is the next production run of 10 cars going down, Mark?
Well, we've currently got about 4 or 5 interested parties. So we sort of had some discussions today. We'll probably start the sort of car 12 in a few weeks, just to start to get it going. And then, but there's now interest overseas. It's actually, I think, we did a digital launch of Golf GTI GTC car, as you probably know.
Yeah.
The power of social media has been overwhelming. So, and today again, I've got a team in the UK mailing me interested in stuff, and they've now seen the Super Cup car, because obviously that's been on social media a lot in the last few weeks. So now there's interest in everything. So we just need to see how we go. There is interest locally, both in endurance racing and in Super Cup as part of GTC. So yeah, we will build some more cars, but I think we're also trying to entice some more brands into it, and I think that's the intention of this. Is not a makeup; it's a multi-brand formula, and it was always intended to be like that. So the next steps would obviously be to try and get other manufacturers in. There will be a kit of parts that you would have to use, and the gearbox and the brakes is just one, 2 examples. But I think that's what we need to do. Our next job is to get some more brands out there.
So it seems to me that it's very much like a South African version of TCR racing, where you've, at a fraction of the cost of some of the TCR cars.
Well, I suppose one could look at it as a baby TCR car. It's if you look at the TCR regulations now, the cars have got a lot more complicated than they were when they started. So, but I think the important to try and keep the car as simple as you can without compromising too much speed. When the car's phenomenal, we really didn't expect it to be as quick as it is for what it is. I mean, there's a lot of local or standard components in the car. So we I think that as the speed that it is now doesn't need to go any far. It's really that's enough. The next steps is just to get some more brands out there.
You talk about speed, and Andrew Horn, we're going to come to you now. You talk about speed. I'm told that on Friday, one of the cars was circulating at Kyalami, making some really in under 156, and some of the guys in their Lamborghinis and Porsches were a little bit pissed off that a Super Polo could keep up with them. And earlier today, I was at SWATcorps. I saw Saul Hack testing, and he was down in the low sixes, 6.4, 6.5 in the car. So those are bloody quick. If you look at the time for 700k, it's a no-brainer.
We qualified in a 5.8 at the endurance event. Keegan did a 5.8 in qualifying, and when we tested here in March, Michael Stephen did a 4.8 at Scribanti. Now 4.8 at Scribanti is going. That's really fast.
Bloody quick, yeah, absolutely fantastic.
And, the car is mapped on pump fuel, so we've done to keep it fuel accessible and cheap. So that if you put high performance fuel in it, there's opportunity for more. But again, I don't think the intention is for more right now. The intention rather is to get us and to keep it as cost effective.
Andrew, you had a question or two?
I do indeed. The first one will be for Gary. Just what you mentioned on chassis for GTC. Talk us through the changes in chassis. Talk us through some of the rule changes in GTC going into the new season, and what changes have come about, and possibly some of the reasons behind it.
So the cars, have been around since 2016 now, and we used locally sourced material for the first couple of chassis, and the original intention was to bring in the chassis from South Engineering from Germany, but we went the route that we did because the support that we had from the particular company at the time, and then of course now as time's gone on, we needed to replace chassis that have been raced hard and crashed, and as racing cars are used and abused. And we've gone back to the imported chromoly chassis from Sauter. They've been put together here by Stuart Thompson. So the big thing now is you've got a much stiffer, much more rigid chassis, and of course a much lighter chassis as well, which is going to allow us, once we've got everybody onto the same page, to run at a lot less weight than we were running before. We just couldn't get down to the weight that we could. So the car's going to be a lot lighter, of course, a lot more reliable, a lot more quicker, without having to sort of put the boost up and do other things to put any stress on the car. So we're excited about that, and I think right now we have a car that's it's now fully eligible for it can become an FIA spec car, which was what we always wanted. We didn't have until now. So to sell these cars overseas, should it become available to us, we can do so with all the right paperwork. So the car now is really where we wanted it to be right in the beginning. So we're quite happy with that.
And you've got
any other
Toyota.
changes that you want to sort of mention in rules, or is it all sort of as it's been apart from changing the material in the chassis?
There's little bits and pieces here and there that we're looking at, but then generally it's been what it's been for the last couple of years, and that's been one of the strengths with the category as well. There haven't been any massive rule changes over the years. We've really got there the cars. We had to do some development work on the 2-liter engines. Some of the brands were better than the others when we kicked off, and we had to get that under our belts. But once that was all sorted out, that's really where we stayed. It's been pretty easy to police. The concepts of both the classes are really the same. The spares packages are available, etc., etc. So it's been stable. There's been other things that have maybe caught us out, like COVID and a couple of other things like that. But in general, it's been good. So the chassis change has been going to be our big one, and the introduction of the new Toyota and the new Golf GTI. So it's evolving nicely, and I've got to say, listen, in times like this, we're quite happy with where we are now.
And are you going to see some more numbers on the grid?
Of course, look, there's a potential of sort of 9 cars. That it just depends on what happens with certain deals here and there. This year is going to be a year where everybody's, I think, just going to kind of regroup. Unfortunately, we need everybody to be in one place at the same time. We just don't have at this point in time. But that's where we are. And I'm not unhappy with the number. I think with SupaCup, with the amount of cars that's there, with where we are, as I said, running with lighter chassis, etc., the cars are going to be quicker. So I think we've got a good show and a good package there.
And in time, we'll have more than 20 cars in the race, which I think is absolutely, it's bloody good, and is going to lead to some proper exciting racing. Mike, this weekend coming up, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but who's likely to be right at the sharp end of the SupaCup cars?
I think we're going to have three guys that are going to be boxing for the front. I must say that Jonathan he's taken to this car like a duck to water. It's really been pretty quick and impressive. And then of course you got Brad and Jeffrey who've obviously they had their massive fight in Polo Cup for the championship last year and raced door to door throughout the season. So I think it's going to be very interesting at the front. And then there's guys like Sol Hack who really knocking on. He's put in some pretty impressive times without using push to pass. So I think he's someone to watch out for. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But maybe there's some surprises in there.
That's the lovely part about motor racing. Yeah, he will. But the lovely part about racing is that you never know until the race is done who's going to do what, and that's what makes it so exciting for us.
Yeah, well, we've never had everyone. When we had a test day for them, but there was no official timing, so you had to believe what they were telling you. But now on Friday morning, when they head out on the circuit for the first time all together, we'll see the real, who's doing what. So it's exciting times.
The other thing is that there's limited tires for each of the race meetings, so you can't just keep throwing tires at the car and looking for a lap time.
No, so this is the kickoff, the start of the season. So they'll obviously be allowed 4 new tires from qualifying, and then from the second round, be allowed 2 new from then on. So they have to manage that tightly. I will say that the Dunlop tire that we specified for the car, it is quite expensive, but you can probably do 160 laps on it without too much drop off. So its lifespan is very good. You get good value out of it.
Quite interesting to seeing some of the times where they're really quick and they're brand new and they sort of level off and then just carry on for days, as you mentioned.
Well,
Right off
in the
that easily.
Say again,
Sorry?
Andrew?
I think your cost versus lap time then balances out. If guys have then got good practice rubber or good testing rubber, that instead of buying new tires to test all the time, it probably balances out in the long run.
Yeah, well, to give you an example, at the end of the second, Bradley, we told him on the radio to give it two fast laps with push to pass, and he did a mid-6, and then after 2 hours of running. So that's sort of the level the tire can really help. It's a fantastic tire. It's in fact the tire that's was used in I think it's still used in some of these in your TCR. So it's a great tire. I know some of the guys are moan when they have to pay for them, but at the end of the day, if you're getting good life out of them, then it all balances out, as you say.
Gary Formato, all this talking about testing and lap times and push to passes and all of that, there's a little itch going on inside you, and you want to get your bum back in a race car again, don't you?
You know what? I'm actually fine with it right now. Obviously when it first all started, it was quite difficult to watch everybody going and doing their thing. But at the moment, I think we're good, and I think really it's been a tough year because I think with everybody else has had the same problem. You just weren't sure what was going to happen, when we were going to go racing, what the deal was going to be. At least now maybe we're not doing exactly the way we want to do it right now, but we're doing it at least. And it's, as I said, an exciting time. We've got so many new cars out there, the new class coming in. there's lots to do now. So we've got to now pick everything up now and start running with the ball again, and just keep on building, and just we've got some momentum now, even in a very 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 difficult time in all of our lives, and in particular motor racing for this country. We've got some great momentum. So we've just got to, as I said, pick up the ball, run with it as fast as we can now, and build what we can now, and get GTC to a level that we always wanted to be at. I mean, I don't think we're that far off right now.
I'm looking forward to racing again, sprint racing. So it's 2 weekends in a row for me doing some work at racetracks. I think it's thank you both, Gary Formato and Mike Rowe, for Mike, what you as a manufacturer of Volkswagen, you've put your balls on the line, you've invested a bucket load in motorsport, and from, I'm sure, all the race fans, thank you very much for what you guys do to give us our fix of power and racing. It's been great talking to both of you, and Mike, all the very best for this weekend. Gary Formato, birth of a new class in GTC. Good luck to you both.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.
Awesome talking to them. Well, Mr. Horndog, it's just you and I left.
Colin?
Exciting times these. I mean, it's a pity we're not going to have spectators at the races, but I'm sure there are plans afoot that will be announced shortly to get pictures live from the racetrack to your TV and your computer.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think Race Day is certainly a good platform for that, and for somebody like me that can't be there, I would itching to see some live streaming, itching to be back at a racetrack, itching to be back in the studio with you. But look, I think there's some exciting stuff going on there. I'll be watching GTC with some curiosity to see how it grows. I think that SupaCup formula is one of the most exciting things that we've heard about in South Africa, looking at sort of value for money that is being created there. Wow. Yeah.
I think you know what I feel about Suzuki, because they kind of lacquer. They also, the Swift is one of the lightest of the smallish cars. So I think that we should make a call to Suzuki and see what we can do to convince them to build a Super Suzuki. I think it would be absolutely bloody brilliant. Any more comments and queries, questions from the chatter box areas?
No, not too much. I think everything's really been covered. Greg Charman in the UK says, good evening, gang, and thanks for a great show. We've had Candace Schmidt on, and then those questions from Garth Jacobs as well. Sonia Malan says she loves RacedayTV. So, yeah, that's about all from my side. I would back a venture with Suzuki all day, every day. That's something we could think about, Colin?
I think we should. I hate that term, reach out to our friends. On that note, Andrew Horn, thank you very much for joining us and for being my sidekick and looking after me and keeping me on track. To our executive... To our executive producer, he of greatness, Henk, thank you very, very much. To our technical wizard, the great Fritz, thank you for driving the show and putting all the stuff together. To Duracell, thank you very much for keeping me talking. And to you, our loyal audience, thank you very much for watching. And remember, just be nice. Have fun. See you again. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.